What is up, guys? Welcome to part 3 of my Rastakhans Rumble set review. Today we're going to be going over all the cards I have yet to talk about before the final card dump and card live stream. And then for tomorrow's video, we will be doing just that. We're going to talk about all the cards revealed in the final card dump. Masked Contender is a 3-mana 2/4 battlecry. If you control a secret, play a secret from your deck. So anytime you get a secret for free, you got to really pay attention. Obviously, this is a breakthrough card in Wild because of exactly Mad Scientist. You can play this on curve. The 3 mana makes it a little bit awkward, especially in Mage, because you play a secret on turn 3, and then if you play this on turn 4, you're sort of losing out on a mana. Now you could curve out with a Coin Kirantor Mage into Masked Contender, and if you're just playing Hunter, well, you play a secret on turn 2, and then your opponent might have the opportunity to have a decision, which is interesting because normally they would probably not want to give you a Wandering Monster with their whatever little 1-drop. But because this card exists, you now have another reason to sort of break the secret and take your punishment, or your opponent could get extra value. I don't think this makes it as a rogue card. It's only going to be a Mage or Hunter card. And I think it does fit well into both decks. In Hunter because it curves well, in Mage and Wild because of Mad Scientist, and in Mage just because, well, getting a 3-mana spell for free is a good deal very often. I like that this doesn't have aggressive stats, and I also like that it leads to some interesting gameplay because, again, it's a reason for you to break a secret when maybe you wouldn't want to normally. Pyromaniac is a 3-mana 3/4 with the ability, whenever your hero power kills a minion, you get to draw a card here. So this is obviously going to be supported very well in a Baku Mage deck. And because the card Spirit of the Dragonhawk is not odd, but it enables you to sort of go wide with your hero power, you have a lot of opportunities to get extra cards. So very solid card here. We'll see play at the very least in Baku, possibly in other Mage decks with hero power shenanigans. And it doesn't take much for this to be really good, right? If you ever get one card off of this, it's really good. And at the worst case scenario, you just have a 3-mana 3/4, which again, this is sort of the new barrier to entry for 3-drops. So if you're playing a 3-mana 3/3 in this new standard, look out because there's a lot of 3/4s running around. Reckless Dire Troll, 3-mana 2/6 taunt in Warlock here. Battlecry, discard your lowest cost card, which not always a disadvantage and possibly very powerful because it is selective discard. Clutch Mother Zabas is probably the go-to thing here, and the new Warlock Legendary as well, High Priestess Jeklik. So a couple nice legendary options here. I guess at the very least you could try to discard your coin. If you have a hand where the coin isn't doing anything for you, well, you can get rid of it for a little loss there. And this might spawn new archetypes in the sense that you might want to sort of sculpt your deck and hand around exactly discarding either, Zabas or the new legendary Jeklik. Another cool thing about this card is if you do discard Jeklik, it kind of curves amazingly. You play this on 3, discard your Jeklik, and then you have high cost cards in your hand. So maybe turn 5, you got a Doom Guard. You play the Doom Guard and hope to discard more Jeklik. So very cool card here. And the disadvantage of the Battlecry might actually be just a huge advantage. And I think overall it's a very solid and very strong card. Sand Drudge is a 3-mana 3/3 priest card with the ability, whenever you cast a spell, summon a 1/1 zombie with taunt. So a little bit of a different take on a Violet Teacher here. It's important that these zombies do have taunt because at 3-mana 3/3, it is much easier to kill than a Violet Teacher. So the zombies having taunt is very important. Can you play this on turn 3? Well, there is a 0-mana priest card coming up, and there are 0-mana priest cards in the decks. So this is interesting when you probably don't want to play it on turn 3 because, like we were talking about, there's a lot of 3/4s running around in the new coming standard. So 3/3 is a little bit underwhelming in that department. Is this better than a Violet Teacher? Unfortunately, because Druid have so many synergies with going wide that I don't think this is something you necessarily want to be doing in Priest. But 1/1 taunts are annoying, and this card could snowball. I just feel like it doesn't snowball in the way you sort of want it to. Smolder Thorn Lancer is a 3-mana 3/2 with the Battlecry. If you're holding a dragon, destroy a damaged enemy minion. So you're going to execute on a body here, notably an odd-costed minion, and that means Baku decks can now have access to execute. This is obviously more powerful when you have access to the full range of warrior cards like Warpath, Bloodrazor, and among others. But because Warrior does have a strong pull toward Baku, this will be a nice tool for those decks. You do have to be a dragon deck, obviously, in both instances, and there is some nice push and pull between Baku and the new Legendary Warrior card, which is an even card, and they're likely going to be more reasons to be, odd only and reasons to be, everything included. So very cool that there's going to be 2 probably different warrior controlled dragon decks. Spirit of the Frog is a 3-mana 0/3 with stealth for 1 turn, of course. And then when you cast a spell, draw a spell from your deck that costs 1 more. So very interesting card here. What are you doing with this? I think the most likely scenario is you play it around turn 4, so you're able to play exactly Zap into Lightning Bolt or just play your Lightning Bolt. And then you're going to get a 2-mana spell. In Standard, there's not that many. In Wild, there's a lot of them. You got Maelstrom Portal and Devolve, 2 very strong spells. In Standard, you got Rock Biter and not much else. You got a couple buff cards in the Earthen Might and even Cryostasis. So maybe if your Zap and Lightning Bolt protected your Spirit of the Frog, the following turn you're going to be overloaded, but then you can still play a 2-mana buff onto the Spirit of the Frog, and then you're going to draw, then you're going to start drawing some of the powerful cards like Lightning Storm and into Hex and stuff. So this does have the chance to snowball out of control with card advantage, but you're not snowballing onto the board necessarily. And I think that makes it one of the weaker spirits, although probably a fun one to experiment with, right? Normally these spirits fall into 2 categories. One, either they're very cheap and you can kind of combo them really quickly with stuff, kind of like the Hunter, the Warrior one, and the Priest one. And then there's the ones that you kind of put a down payment on for tempo the following turn. The Rogue and Paladin spirits come to mind, and they can snowball out of control very quickly onto the board, where again, this one you're just snowballing card advantage. So very cool card, but probably one of the weaker spirits. Untamed Beastmaster, 3-mana epic at 3/4. So once again, 3-mana 3/4, new barrier to entry for these 3 drops. So watch out playing 3/3s. Whenever you draw a beast, give it +2/+2. Very fitting card here in this set because just everything is just randomly a beast. A lot of big beasts, so giving a big beast a +2/+2 isn't amazing. Giving medium-sized beasts is where you start to get a lot of value. Anything with taunt, gets a lot of value if you can combo this. The big combo with this is obviously in a Hunter. Technically, with Master's Call, you could possibly draw 3 beasts and give them all +2/+2. The awkward situation, though, is that you're having to put the non-beast Beastmaster in your deck, and then you have the risk of playing Master's Call, seeing either the first or the second Beastmaster in the Discover, and then you only get 1 beast out of the deal. I do think the upside of actually doing them all is worth it. So if you're playing Master's Call, I do think you slot in 1 to 2 Beastmasters just to try to get the dream, right? The 3-mana draw 3, technically losing tempo, but if all 3 cards that you draw do have +2/+2 on them, you will gain that tempo back very, very quickly. So overall, pretty amazing card at 3 mana. War Druid Lottie, 3-mana 1/2, but it transforms into 1 of 4 forms. Let's take a look at them. The first one is a 1/2 Stealth Poisonous, so that could be useful in the right situation, obviously. We also get a 1/6 Taunt. Maybe the one you least use if you're getting beat down by Baku Paladin. Well, that's a great one to play. The 4/2 Rush is going to be a commonly used ability on this because, well, it's just going to be a removal card. And then you have the 1/4 Spell Damage card, which obviously combos insanely well anytime you can swipe. So very versatile card here. Might be an auto-included Druid just because at the very least you can use it as removal, and in the late game you can use it with swipe, and you can set up a deadly shot type effect with the Stealth Poisonous. So very strong card. Zentamo is a 3-mana 1/3 legendary shaman card. Not good stats, but the ability is quite good. Whenever you target a minion with a spell, it also targets adjacent ones. So notably, not a battle cry. This just keeps happening when you whenever you play a spell, and there's a big list of shaman spells that are going to benefit greatly from this. Let's take a look at some of them. Hex, obviously, you can hex the enemy minion and then hex 2 more things. You can rock bite your own minions for a Bloodlust here. You can Wind Fury. Tidal Surge gets pretty crazy. You get so much life. Avalanche gets better because it's more of a, controlled damage AoE. Unstable Evolution is kind of actually nutty because you could possibly evolve 3 things at once over and over. Earthen Might, if you are hitting multiple elementals, you're getting insane value. So maybe another auto-include here in every Shaman deck just because of how well it synergizes with exactly, Hex and cards like Rockbiter and Tidal Surge, etc. So yeah, you're going to take a close look at what spells you're playing so they get maximum synergy out of Zentamo. Lick Kim, 2-mana shaman weapon with 1 attack and 3 durability. It also has +2 attack while you have overloaded mana crystals. And the thing to keep in mind here is you're actually going to have mana crystals for 2 turns every time you cast a overload spell, because if you play this on turn 3 and you lightning bolt, well, it's going to be active for the turn you played the lightning bolt, and it's going to be active for the very next turn. So getting this to be a 3 durability fiery war axe is actually not that hard. And because you have the sort of buffer turn, the following turn, to set up the next overload, it's going to work out very well. Now, it's not exactly a 2-drop outside of exactly having zap and 2 targets, but in general, it's going to be like a Eaglehorn Bow with, you know, an extra mana on the turn you play the Eaglehorn Bow. So overall, very strong card. Big Bad Voodoo, 2-mana shaman spell. Give a friendly minion death rattle, summon a random minion that costs 1 more. So we have a delayed evolve here. So obviously much worse than evolve and unstable illusion if that's what you're just trying to do. Where does this fit in? Well, if there's sort of copy effects going on, this could be powerful. It also is a target for the new Spirit of the Frog, which we looked at 2 mana. There's not that many things to pull, and this could be one of the things you pull. You could even play it on the Spirit of the Frog. Assuming you lightning bolt and zapped your way to a clear board, you have time to actually buff your frog after it lost stealth. Well, it could come back as a 4-mana minion for some tempo. That might be the interesting interaction there. Overall, you know, it's not going to compare favorably to the old Evolve and now Unstable Evolution, which is still legal in Standard. But because it is exactly 2 mana, and it does have some applications with copy effects, it could be a little bit interesting. Revenge of the Wild, 2-mana hunter spell. Summon your beasts that died this turn for 2 mana. So very polarizing card in the sense that some people believe it is the best card in the Hearthstone. Some people believe it is highly overrated. I actually fall in the camp that it looks like it's just way undercosted for what it does, because it has the chance to completely win the game for just 2 mana if all you do is, you know, resummon like a high main for 2. That's insane tempo. And the fallback scenario of having to use this for value, it's not that hard because of exactly Unleash the Hounds, among other new Hunter tools that we're going to get, like the new Hunter Legendary card, which could make use of this very easily. So very strong card. I do think is probably one of the best cards in the set, and probably almost certainly a mistake at just 2 mana. Seance is a 2-mana pre-spell. Choose a minion, add a copy of it to your hand. So not just your minion, not just your opponent's minions, but any minions. So we have an upgraded convert here. The targets for this are most likely going to be the Lich King. Basically anything you couldn't Zola on before, now with the mana discount on Zola, you can do the Lich King, you can do the new Princess Taljani, and the new Undertaker, as well as something like Grave Horror, right? The Grave Horror gets really cheap. You play the Seance on it. The next Grave Horror in your hand that you got from the copy is even cheaper, so that's the combo there. I do think this is a role-play card, and we'll see play in definitely fun decks for sure. Belligerent Gnome is a 2-mana 1/4 taunt with the battle cry. If your opponent has 2 or more minions, it gains +1 attack. So nice take on a anti-aggressive card. I don't love it completely on turn 2 because I don't think it's going to be active enough for it to be a 2-mana 2/4 taunt. So once you get past turn 2, it's going to, you know, stack up unfavorably to something like Tar Creeper. So when do you play this card? I don't know. Maybe in a deck with hand buffing, it scales up pretty nicely because late in the game, it's just going to be a 2-mana 2/4. And if you gave it some buffs, well, it's going to be bigger than that. So any deck that has hand buffs might look at this. It's just not going to be what it looks like it's designed for. It's not going to be a 2-mana 2/4 on turn 2 often enough to be good. Bloodsail Howler is a 2-mana 1/1 rogue minion that is also a pirate. It has rush, and it gains +1/+1 for each other pirate you control. So not exactly a 2-drop unless you're playing in Wild, when you can go turn 1 pirate into patches, turn 2 you play a 3/3 rush minion. That seems strong. In Standard, you're going to have to wait a little bit. This doesn't have great Captain Hook Tusk synergy, but you will be very, very happy when this comes down as a 2-mana 5/5 rush minion or bigger. So very strong card. It's just not a 2-drop. Fire Tree Witch Doctor is a 2-mana 2/2 with the battle cry. If you're holding a dragon, discover a spell. Wow, very strong card here. I'm actually surprised it is a 2/2. Like, why is it not a 1/1? Why is it not a 2/1? Why is it not a 1/2 like cards of its ilk? It's just a super strong card and a super big reason to go into Dragon for any deck because it is neutral. This card is going to see a ton of play. Immortal Prelate is a 2-mana 1/3 Paladin. It has the Death Rattle. Shuffle this into your deck. It keeps any enchantments. And the thing you're going to obviously want to hit with this is the Spike Ridge Steed around 8 mana. And once this guy goes back in your deck, comes out the second time, it's just value, value, value. Nice synergy here with Crystology and Lanessa. In fact, Crystology brings out both of these from your deck. So that is something to be experimented with for sure. This also technically gives you an infinite deck, barring any silence cards. So if that is a thing in the new standard to come, well, that is another technically win condition. Just heal up and never run out of cards, right? Savage Striker, 2-mana 2/3 Druid minion. Battlecry, deal damage to an enemy minion equal to your attack. Now, this card looked a bit underwhelming, if just fine, until we realized there's now going to be a Druid Backstab card. And this card with the new Backstab card is very strong. So it went from being sort of a good / mediocre / maybe not what Druid wants to do to just a very, very real card now that Druid has Backstab for some reason. Shark Fin Fan is a 2-mana 2/2 pirate. After your hero attacks, summon a 1/1 pirate. Wow, this is really strong in both Rogue and Warrior, especially in Wild. If you can go turn 1, the Zos first mate, turn 2 Shark Fan, attack. You also get patches in the meantime, so kind of silly in Wild Pirate Warrior actually. In Standard, you have the Rogue play of, again, maybe turn 1 Hero Power, turn 2 Shark Fan, and you attack, and then you have the card we mentioned, Bloodsail Howler, at some point to maybe protect the fan for subsequent turns, and then you can finish off with the Cannon Barrage. So the deck kind of builds itself, and this guy's very strong. It is a snowball card at just 2 mana. It is a pirate, which matters a lot, like I said, in Wild and in Standard. Soup Vendor is a 2-mana 1/4 with the ability, whenever you restore 3 or more health to your hero, you draw a card. So this slots right into the new Paladin Healing archetype that is getting pushed very heavily. And it fits with the new legendary to make sure you are damaged in every turn to heal every turn. Also fits right in with the Paladin card Benevolent Djinn, which heals you for exactly 3 every turn. So if you can play a taunt, protect him, and heal to draw, you're going to be having a good time. In fact, you could play cards that do both at the same time, like Zeliax and Rotten Apple Bomb have both taunt and heal. So yeah, it kind of snowballs out of control. Little card engine here, possibility. And again, very generously statted at 1/4 on turn 2. This is going to survive almost a majority of the time. Spirit of the Bat is a 2-mana card. Of course, it is stealth and 0/3. And after a friendly minion dies, give a minion in your hand +1/+1. So interesting design here in the sense that it makes you not run Prince Kelly-Seth. And its ability is a very Prince Kelly-Seth type of thing. Instead of buffing your whole deck, it buffs a single card in your hand for +1/+1. I think this is asking you to do too much work in a zoo deck, and it makes you possibly makes your zoo deck worse by, again, not being able to run Prince Kelly-Seth. So not sure where this card fits in whatsoever. Maybe you're trying to buff the new Warlock legendary card a bunch of times. So maybe you have a very cheap deck, and so by the time you want to do this, the only card that could get buffed is the big legendary. Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. So I do think this is a little bit underwhelming, right? Spirit of the Dragonhawk, 2 mana, of course, a stealth with 0/3 stats. Your hero power also targets adjacent minions. So I guess on turn 4, you could play this and ping 3 things, and then the following turn, ping 3 things again. That's a little bit slow. So what you're really going to have to do is combo this card with exactly Daring Fire Eater. They form a nice little 1/2 punch on turns 2 and 3. So you play the stealth on turn 2. Turn 3, you play the 1-mana Fire Eater, which we're going to look at in a minute here, which will do 3 damage to your target and 3 damage to the adjacent minions, which after that means there's probably nothing left on the board, although there are a lot of 3/4s running around in this format, which would in turn kill your Dragonhawk. Water Boy, 2 mana, 2/1, Battlecry, your next hero power this turn costs 0. So it's not exactly like a cheaper fencing coach in the sense that it's only for 1 turn. It doesn't set up a hero power over multiple turns. And when are you going to use this? Well, it's ironically not good when you want to be using it, because you want to be making your Baku hero powers cost 0 because they're better, but because he costs 2 mana, you can't play him in Baku decks. And then Gen decks, your hero power already costs 1, so you're not getting the full value. So you want to play this in a deck with normal hero powers. When would that be? Maybe Warlock, because you get to draw, deal 2 damage yourself, or 0. kind of like a worse Kobold Librarian, very similar to Loot Hoarder to some extent. You get the card immediately in exchange for the damage. In Warrior and Priest, I don't think you really want to worry about this guy. In Shaman and Paladin, you get a little bit of tempo on the board immediately. Either a 1/1, which is a card that's very similar to cards that already exist, or you get a random Totem, which are, again, similar to cards that already exist. In Hunter, I guess you could play this as a complete smart card. You play it for 2 mana, get a 2/1, and you hero power face for 0. Grim Rally, 1 mana Warlock spell. It says destroy a friendly minion, give your minions +1/+1. So we got a Warlock take on a Mark of Lotus card here. Mark of Lotus, a very strong card, and I imagine this card is going to be very strong as well. One of the things that Warlock, doesn't really have much of is sort of team buffers on the field. If Warlock had a Bloodlust card or a Savage Roar card in their arsenal, there would be a lot of games that would end very quickly. Now, this is obviously not as bursty as a Savage Roar / Bloodlust, but if you hit multiple things with this card, it is very strong for just 1 mana. We have Shriek here, another 1 mana Warlock spell. It says discard your lowest cost card. So again, selective discard can be very powerful with Clutch Mother Zavas and the new legendary. Deal 2 damage to all minions. Interesting that this costs only 1, and I think it actually costs 1 just so Gen decks can't play it, right? It kind of fits right into a Gen deck as another control tool, and so Gen decks can't play it. I think this card, again, because it is selective discard, because it is AoE for so cheap, it's just hard not to see how this sees a lot of play. And I do think it is going to see a lot of play. Again, Clutch Mother Zavas and the new High Priest Jeklik are almost reasons enough to want to have a selective discard. Totemic Smash, 1 mana, deal 2 damage. So already almost playable in that sense. Holy Smite and Arcane Shot can see constructed play from time to time. Overkill, you summon a basic totem. Notably, this can go face, and it is a way to chain spells because it is so cheap. Shaman have a theme going right now where they want to play as many spells as possible in the same turn, and because this can also go face, it sets up possible Malagos finishes. So, solid card at 1 mana, 2/1. The Overkill is just a bonus, not too important. The card will see play regardless of the overkill. Daring Fire Eater, 1 mana, 1/1, but it has the battle cry, your next hero power deals 2 more damage. So basically a 3-drop. So you're getting a 3 mana, 1/1 that deals 2 damage, or you're getting a 3 mana, 1/1 that does 3 damage to 3 targets when you play the Spirit of the Dragonhawk. So at the very worst, it's not a terrible card. 3 mana, 1/1, deal 3 is perfectly fine. And the upside of having to comboing with the Dragonhawk is pretty huge because you get the huge AoE. Gurabashi Chicken is a 1 mana, 1/1 beast with Overkill, gain +5 attack. So this is actually worse than Angry Chicken, which is no easy feat to accomplish. This gets seen play exactly nowhere outside of getting it randomly with Rexar. Sarnite Taskmaker is the newest form of Zombie Chow at 1 mana, 2/3. Unlike Zombie Chow, however, this doesn't get played as a defensive tool. It will only see play in hyper-aggressive decks that want to get started on turn 1, like Baku Paladin, Baku Rogue, Zoo Warlock, where if you're the first one to get your Taskmaker down, you're going to be way ahead because you get to sort of kill their Taskmaker first, you get to deal with their taunt minion first, and then all of a sudden, your Taskmaker is behind an 0-3 taunts. You're presumably smaller Taskmaker because you've been trading. So a very aggressive card here. It kind of is a race to the bottom card because if all aggressive decks are playing this, the guy that goes first is at a huge advantage. They get to play their Taskmaker first. They get the first opportunity to buff their said Taskmaker to kill the enemy Taskmaker to get the taunt first to protect said Taskmaker. So again, this is kind of a race to the bottom card for aggressive decks. Not sure it's completely healthy for the format. If you're sort of forced to play this to fight other aggressive decks, it comes down to RNG. Again, who sort of gets the Taskmaker advantage. But overall, very strong card. Unfortunately, can't really see play like Zombie Chow used to see play in slower decks as a defensive tool because the downside of this card is not something you want to be doing and giving to an aggressive deck. Spirit of the Dead, 1 mana spirit, and it's 0-3 stealth, of course. After friendly minion dies, shuffle a 1-cost copy, 1-cost copy into your deck. So very interesting take on a Cult Master type card here. The big advantage over Cult Master is it only costs 1 mana, so very easy not to lose the tempo for your turn to set up a big advantage for subsequent turns. What are you doing with 1 mana minions in your deck? Well, you can try to make a Starliner combo deck. Anytime you draw a 1 mana card with 7 health, Starliner gets much better. Obviously, this is the meant to be used with the new Priest Legendary Baswani, and if you can put a bunch of value big cards into your deck, draw them all with Baswani, maybe on turn 10 you play a few of them at the same time. That's a pretty nice little combo. So not going to be super competitive, I don't think, but it looks like a very fun combo with exactly Baswani and maybe even Starliner. Spirit of the Raptor. Stealth for 1 turn. After your hero attacks and kills a minion, you get to draw a card. This card did look a little bit underwhelming at first, but now we find out that Druid is getting a backstab card for 0, and all of a sudden this card gets much better. With a card like this, you want to sort of stack them as much as possible, and so each time you do this effect, you draw another card that could lead to another, removal like Claw. When I was reviewing Gonk, I didn't realize that your hero is actually the one that gets to attack multiple times. And obviously, I reviewed that card incorrectly. If you have just Malfurion or 1 new backstab or claw, all of a sudden Gonk gets much better. So we missed the ball on that one a little bit. I'm not exactly sure it's a very good card, but it's definitely a better card than what I originally thought. As far as Spirit of the Raptor goes, again, if you're going to do this, you got to kind of have to go all in. You play the new backstab card, which I do think gets played regardless of you're playing Spirit of the Raptor or not. But if you're playing the Spirit of the Raptor, you're going to want as many of these effects as possible because they have the opportunity to chain into each other. Spirit of the Rhino is the warrior spirit for 1. It is, of course, a stealth and 0/3. Your rush minions are immune the turn they're summoned. So this has the opportunity to snowball out of control if you're playing a minion versus minion deck. I think this is a little bit dangerous in aggressive decks because if they have 1 control card, a board clear, you're sort of giving yourself a big card disadvantage here. One of the advantages of rush cards is they kind of get the value immediately. So with this thing, you're supporting the health of those said cards. But if your opponent had a big removal or mass removal anyway, you're just down extra cards. Now in a control deck, this gets a little bit more interesting in decks where you can sort of draw more cards. You have more opportunities to sort of do this and not worry about the card disadvantage. So this is powerful, no doubt. I don't think you're going to want to play this in an aggressive deck though. I think you're going to want to figure out a way to play this in more of a mid-range deck, a deck that will not run out of resources too quickly. Spring Paw, 1 mana, 1/1 beast with rush. Also the battle cry, add a 1/1 links with rush to your hand. So very versatile card here. Doesn't match up well against exactly Firefly, but you can play it on turn 1, try to adapt it turn 2, or you can just save it for combo cards like Toxmonger or something like Scavenging Hyena. Just a super versatile card to do at any point in the game. Elemental Evocation is a 0 mana mage spell. The next elemental you play this turn costs 2 less. Very cool designed card here. New take on an Iterate type of card. I like that it sort of breaks up the Dragon Fury style decks that are going on here into different archetypes. If you're going to play Dragon's Fury, well, you're not going to be doing this. And if you're going to be playing this, you're probably not going to be playing Dragon's Fury unless you're the gambling type of person. And this is a cool card here. It is a very selective Innervate, but an Innervate nonetheless. And it does help you keep your elemental chain going. And it makes big cards like Blaze Caller and Baron Geddon come down a couple of turns early, which can be very strong. You do lose cards in the process, card disadvantage, but for the tempo. But Mage has no trouble getting both cards from their deck and randomly generated cards. Regenerate, another 0 mana spell, this time in Priest. It says restore 3 health. Ironically, this won't restore 3 health very often outside of use with Lyra. More often than not, it's going to do 3 damage to a minion or 6 damage to the opponent's face. This does set up an OTK combo in Wild with Radiant Elemental and Embrace the Shadows without the need for an Emperor Tharson tick. So that concludes part 3. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys tune in tomorrow where we will have access to every single card in the set, and I will go over all the cards yet to be reviewed. Thanks for making it to the end of the video, guys. I have links here for more content. And if you would like to see the channel grow, please click that subscribe button in the middle. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.